He cheated with my cousin. I served them both divorce papers at the family reunion. The sentence had been playing in my head like a twisted mantra for weeks, the words becoming more solid, more real with each repetition. What had started as an unthinkable nightmare was now my new reality, and the plan I'd crafted would be my salvation. 3 months ago, my life had been perfect. Or so I'd thought. The first hint came in the form of a text message notification lighting up Jason's phone as it sat on our kitchen counter. I wouldn't normally have looked. Trust had never been an issue in our 8 years of marriage, but something about the way his phone kept buzzing at odd hours had planted a tiny seed of doubt. The message preview showed only, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Same place? From a contact listed simply as L. L could have been anyone, a coworker, a friend. But the password to his phone was our anniversary date, and the sinking feeling in my stomach demanded I know more. My fingers trembled as I entered the 4 digits. The phone unlocked with a cheerful little tone that felt like mockery. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd laugh about this later. There would be a simple explanation. There had to be. But there wasn't. The message thread with L stretched back months. Heart emojis, explicit photos, declarations of passion, plans for hotel meetups on days Jason had told me he was working late. And then, the revelation that shattered my world, a selfie of Jason and my cousin Leah, her lips pressed against his cheek, his arm around her waist. The caption read, "Miss you already. 2 more weeks until the family reunion, then we'll have our little reunion afterward." My vision blurred. The phone slipped from my hands, clattering against the granite countertop. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I felt my body go cold, as if all the blood had been replaced with ice water. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out all other sounds. The kitchen, our kitchen, suddenly felt foreign, like I was standing in a stranger's home. I picked up the phone, locked it, and placed it exactly where it had been. Then I walked to the bathroom, turned on the shower to mask any sound, and vomited until there was nothing left but bile and betrayal. Leah, my cousin, my maid of honor at our wedding, the person who had helped me pick out my engagement ring because Jason wanted a woman's perspective. The same woman who had sobbed on my shoulder last Christmas after her divorce was finalized, claiming her ex had cheated. The irony might have been amusing if it weren't slicing through my soul. I stood under the shower for what felt like hours, letting scalding water punish my skin while my mind replayed every suspicious late night, every unexplained absence, every time Jason had been too tired for intimacy. The signs had been there, but I'd been too trusting, too secure in our marriage to see them. When Jason came home that night, I smiled. I kissed him hello. I asked about his day and listened to his lies about a stressful client meeting. I served the dinner I'd prepared before my world imploded. I laughed at his jokes. And throughout it all, I felt myself splitting in two. The outer shell performing the role of devoted wife, while something new and cold was forming inside me. I went to bed beside him that night, maintaining the charade. As he snored softly next to me, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision. I wouldn't confront him. Not yet. I wouldn't give him the chance to spin more lies or beg for forgiveness. I wouldn't give Leah the satisfaction of knowing she'd broken me. They deserved something special. Something they would never forget. The annual Thompson family reunion was 7 weeks away. Both Jason and Leah would be there, along with every aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandparent in my extended family. Jason had always enjoyed these gatherings, playing the role of charming husband, making my relatives laugh, winning points with the family patriarchs. Leah had always been the golden child, beautiful, successful, the pride of her parents, the perfect setting for their humiliation. For the next 7 weeks, I became an actress worthy of an Academy Award. By day, I was the same loving wife I'd always been. By night, I researched divorce attorneys, documented evidence of the affair, and prepared my exit strategy with cold precision. I chose Miranda Jeffries as my attorney, a shark in designer clothing with a reputation for leaving cheating spouses financially eviscerated. At our first meeting, her office overlooked the city from 30 floors up, making everyone below look appropriately insignificant. "So you want to serve him at a family gathering?" Miranda had asked, perfectly manicured nails tapping against her desk. I could see the slight curl of her lip, not disapproval, but appreciation for the theatrical element. "It's unusual but not impossible. Are you certain this is how you want to proceed?" The question gave me pause, not because I was uncertain, but because I wanted to be sure my motivation was clear. I want them to have no place to hide. I explained, my voice steadier than I'd expected. No private corner where they can control the narrative. I want witnesses. I want consequences. I want the truth to be as public as their lies have been private. Miranda's smile was small but vicious. I understand completely. We spent the next 2 hours outlining the strategy. The evidence was substantial. Text messages I'd meticulously documented, credit card statements showing hotel charges, even a private investigator's photos confirming their ongoing liaisons. Jason had been careless. Perhaps he'd thought I was too trusting to ever check, or maybe their forbidden romance had made them reckless. Either way, his carelessness would cost him dearly. As for Leah, her presence complicated matters. Miranda suggested serving her with a separate lawsuit for alienation of affection, a civil tort still recognized in our state. The damages would be largely symbolic, but the humiliation would be very real. You understand this will likely end any relationship with your extended family? Miranda had cautioned. Some may blame you for the public spectacle rather than them for the betrayal. I'd simply nodded. Family that would side with cheaters isn't family I need. The preparations consumed me. During the day, I maintained my role as the unsuspecting wife, even initiating intimacy with Jason occasionally to avoid suspicion. Each touch felt like betrayal against myself, but I compartmentalized, reminding myself it was merely the cost of my greater plan. At night, while he slept, I cataloged our assets, secured copies of financial records, and gradually moved personal items of sentimental value to a storage unit I'd rented under a new LLC created solely for this purpose. 3 weeks before the reunion, I opened a new bank account at a different bank and transferred my personal savings, money I'd inherited from my grandmother years before our marriage. Not enough to live on long term, but enough to ensure I wouldn't be financially vulnerable in the immediate aftermath. 2 weeks before the reunion, I secured a small apartment with a 6-month lease, paying the entire amount up front to avoid credit checks that might alert Jason. I furnished it minimally, just enough to make it functional. The bareness of the space reflected the hollowness I felt inside, but I reminded myself that emptiness could be filled with something new once the debris of my marriage was cleared away. 1 week before the reunion, the divorce papers were ready. Miranda had been thorough, the document thick with inventories of marital assets and evidence of infidelity. I signed my name with steady hands, each stroke of the pen feeling like both an ending and a beginning. The night before the reunion, I allowed myself one moment of weakness. After Jason had fallen asleep, I stood in our walk-in closet, looking at the life we'd built together, the matching luggage from our honeymoon to Greece, the silly Christmas sweaters we'd worn for holiday photos, the formal wear from countless date nights and anniversary celebrations. For a brief moment, grief overtook me, a wave so powerful I had to press my hand against the wall to remain standing. I didn't grieve for Jason or the marriage. I grieved for the woman I had been, trusting, open-hearted, blind to the betrayal happening right in front of her. That woman was dead now, replaced by someone harder, someone who understood that love was often just an elaborate mask for selfishness. The family reunion was being held at my Uncle Robert's lake house, a sprawling property with enough room for the 50-plus Thompson family members expected to attend. I arrived early, helping set up tables and decorations as if nothing were amiss. Each plastic cup I arranged, each tablecloth I smoothed, was another tick of the clock counting down to the moment that would change everything. Jason arrived separately, having claimed a last-minute work emergency required him to finish something before driving out. Another lie. The private investigator's final report, delivered to my email that morning, confirmed he'd spent 2 hours at Leah's apartment before heading to the reunion. I watched him work the crowd, accepting hugs from my aunts, shaking hands with my uncles, tossing a football with the younger cousins. My chest felt tight, as if my ribs were slowly closing in on my lungs. He looked so natural, so at ease among my family. The perfect husband. The perfect lie. Leah arrived an hour later, making a typically dramatic entrance in a sundress that showcased her gym-sculpted figure. Her parents, my Aunt Carol and Uncle Peter, beamed with pride as she circulated through the gathering. I observed from a distance as she and Jason performed their elaborate dance of casual indifference, never standing too close, never talking too long, their eyes meeting briefly across the picnic tables with secret smiles. Their performance was good. Mine would be better. Miranda arrived at precisely 3 p.m. as planned. She wasn't dressed in her usual courtroom attire, but wore a simple blouse and slacks that wouldn't look out of place at a family gathering. The portfolio under her arm was the only hint of her professional purpose. I met her at the edge of the property, my heart hammering so loudly I was certain everyone could hear it. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes searching mine for any hesitation. I nodded, feeling strangely calm now that the moment had arrived. Completely. We'd timed it perfectly. The family had gathered under the large pavilion for the annual group photo. Everyone was present, arranged in neat rows by height and relation. Jason stood near the back with the other spouses, while Leah was front and center with her parents, her wide smile gleaming in the afternoon sun. I positioned myself to the side, watching as my Uncle Robert counted down for the photographer. The camera flashed once, twice, capturing the last moments of blissful ignorance. "Before we disperse," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the pavilion, "I have something I need to share with all of you." Heads turned. Conversations halted. Jason's expression shifted from confusion to wariness. Leah's smile faltered. "For the past 3 months, I've been living with a devastating discovery," I continued, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "My husband Jason and my cousin Leah have been having an affair." The silence that followed was absolute, like the moment after lightning strikes but before thunder rolls. Then came the gasps, the murmurs, the shifting of bodies as people turned to look at the accused. Jason stepped forward, his face a mask of indignation. "What are you talking about?" "That's—" I held up my hand, cutting him off. "I have proof. Text messages. Hotel receipts. Photographs. I've spent 3 months documenting every lie, every secret meeting, every betrayal." Leah had gone pale, her tan looking suddenly artificial against her bloodless face. Her mother had a hand pressed to her mouth. Her father was looking between his daughter and my husband with dawning horror. "Rather than confront you privately and allow you both to spin more lies, I decided to bring the truth into the light, in front of the family you both claim to respect." I nodded to Miranda, who stepped forward with 2 separate envelopes. "Jason, these are divorce papers citing adultery. Leah, this is a lawsuit for alienation of affection." Miranda moved efficiently, handing each of them their respective documents with the professional detachment of someone delivering routine paperwork. Jason's hands shook as he took the envelope. Leah just stared, not even reaching out until Miranda gently pressed the papers into her limp fingers. "You've both been served," Miranda announced formally, completing the legal requirements of the moment. The chaos that erupted next was exactly as I'd anticipated. Voices raised in shock, denial, accusation. Leah's mother began to cry. Jason tried to approach me, his face contorted with a mixture of anger and panic, but my cousins Matthew and Ethan stepped between us, their protective instincts activated by the public confession. I felt oddly detached from the scene, as if watching it unfold on a screen rather than living it. The weight I'd been carrying for months had lifted, leaving me lightheaded but clear-minded. I turned to address the stunned gathering one final time. "I'm sorry to turn a family celebration into this kind of spectacle, but secrets and lies have been poisoning this family from the inside, and sometimes the only cure for poison is to draw it out into the open." I looked directly at Jason, then Leah. "I hope you find happiness together. You deserve each other." With that, I walked away, feeling dozens of eyes on my back but not once breaking stride. Miranda followed, her heels crunching on the gravel path leading to the parking area. "That," she said quietly when we reached my car, "was the most dignified execution I've ever witnessed." I allowed myself a small smile. "Thank you for your part in it. What will you do now?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. I looked back at the pavilion, where the family reunion had dissolved into clusters of people talking urgently, some comforting Leah's parents, others confronting Jason. The perfect family gathering shattered by the truth. "Now," I said, unlocking my car, "I start over." The weeks that followed played out much as Miranda had predicted. Jason alternated between apologetic pleas and angry accusations, claiming I had humiliated him deliberately when we could have worked things out privately. I let his calls go to voicemail, his texts unanswered, communicating only through attorneys. The evidence ensured the divorce proceedings moved swiftly in my favor. The family fractured along predictable lines. Leah's parents and siblings closed ranks around her, spinning a narrative that minimized her responsibility and painted Jason as the predator who had pursued their vulnerable, recently divorced daughter. My parents and several aunts and uncles stood firmly with me, outraged by the betrayal. Others tried to remain neutral, uncomfortable with taking sides in what they termed a private matter that shouldn't involve the whole family. I found their attempt at neutrality almost more offensive than outright opposition, as if betrayal deserved the protection of privacy, as if truth-telling was the greater sin than infidelity. 6 months after the reunion, the divorce was finalized. I received a fair settlement, the house sold, assets divided. Jason and Leah made their relationship official, moving in together in a new city where they could escape the whispers and stares of those who knew their origin story. I sometimes wondered if they were happy, if the bond forged in deceit could transform into something lasting. Not that it mattered to me anymore. The woman who would have cared was gone, replaced by someone who understood that closure doesn't always come wrapped in neat forgiveness. My new apartment gradually filled with new possessions, new memories uncontaminated by betrayal. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones who knew me only as I was now, not as half of a failed marriage. I focused on my career, earning a promotion that would have been impossible had I remained distracted by emotional turmoil and marital effort. A year after the reunion, another invitation arrived in my mail. For a moment, I considered declining, avoiding the potential awkwardness. But that would mean letting their actions dictate my relationship with the rest of my family. So I RSVP'd yes, prepared for whatever discomfort might come. The gathering was smaller this time, several family members having found convenient excuses to be elsewhere. Jason and Leah were noticeably absent. I learned they'd been explicitly not invited, my Uncle Robert having decided that some choices have consequences that last more than one season. As the day progressed, I found myself sitting on the dock with my grandmother, her weathered hands folded in her lap as we watched the sunset paint the lake in shades of orange and pink. "You know," she said after a comfortable silence, "when I was young, heartbreak felt like the end of everything. Now I know it's just a painful chapter in a much longer story." I looked at her profile, the lines etched by 92 years of joys and sorrows. "Did you ever regret how you handled your heartbreaks?" She chuckled, the sound as dry as fallen leaves. "I regret the ones I suffered in silence, trying to preserve other people's comfort. I never regretted the times I stood up for myself, even when it created a fuss." She patted my hand. "You did right, bringing that poison into the light. Secrets fester. Truth cleanses even when it stings." We sat together as darkness fell, the first stars appearing above the tree line. I felt something settle inside me, a quiet certainty that I was exactly where I needed to be in my story. He cheated with my cousin, and I served them both divorce papers at the family reunion. That chapter was written, bound, and shelved. Now I was free to write the rest of my story on clean pages, with a wiser heart and a pen that would never again write anyone else's name larger than my own.